Basketball team just took their second loss in a row to the Mississippi State Bulldogs, this time by the score of 64 to 58. It felt like more at certain points in the game. Well, this is our reaction show. We're going to break down the stats, the storylines, and try to make sense of everything for you up here right now. So let's get into it. War Eagle Auburn family and War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, whether you're watching here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, all the different places, venues, times, and multiverses with which you can get this content. We appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. For tonight's stream, this afternoon stream, whenever you're viewing this, this is our reaction live stream for Auburn versus Mississippi State. The Tigers fall 2 in a row on the road in SEC play. It is tough to win in the SEC, as the Tigers are finding out very quickly. So we're going to talk about all of that. We'll walk through individual stats. We'll walk through team stats. I want to talk about a few things, but of course, we want your comments, your questions, your thoughts. We'll expound on a few of those as we go throughout the stream tonight. A couple things that you can do to get started for us. Go ahead and smash the like button, not for the performance of the basketball team, but if you can do it to help us out, that'd be a huge help. And also right now in the chat, we'd love for you to post where you're watching from, to know where you're checking in with us, so everybody can see how big and wide the Auburn family is. So those are some things that you can do for us right now. I'll offer up some opening thoughts here for this game. First of all, if you are someone on social media panicking about the state of the basketball team, don't. This is what happens. It's called SEC play. You go on the road. It's tough to win. Now, it's also tough to win when you don't play well. And to say that Auburn has put together two of its most stellar performances would be a lie. And the Alabama game now here at Mississippi State. Poor shooting today. Rebounds is probably going to be the thing that we talk about by the end of everything. Not a lot to be really happy about on this road trip, outside of a comeback that was attempted against Alabama. But this game, pretty much nothing to be super, super excited about, just to keep it real. So we'll walk through that. Maybe we'll find a few shining things in there to discuss. I've got a couple things in mind that I noticed throughout the game, individual-wise, but team-wise, record-wise, performance-wise, overall, we're all not happy right now. 64 to 58. So let's talk about it a little bit. A lot of fine folks checking in with us early. We got Kevin, WT, Thomas, Highfly checking in, Devin, Jackson, Blake over there on Facebook checking it with us. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Somebody even in a tree stand is out there hunting and spending some time with us. So we appreciate you doing that. Kevin starts us off, says, look, I know the SEC is tough and this team beat Tennessee, but offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds are the difference to me, as well as the dumb turnovers, I guess is what you're saying there. So we'll definitely look at those in just a little bit, because I think you're right. Oftentimes when we go through team stats, there is a clear identifiable one that made the difference. I've already kind of looked. I think all of y'all you didn't have to even look at the stat line just to know how this thing went. Too many times on free throws, whether it's theirs or ours, really their free throws, they were getting offensive rebounds when they shouldn't have done that. Now, to their credit, Mississippi State's credit, they've got two really great big men, Matthews and Toulouse Smith. We all knew about Toulouse Smith. So it's not taking anything away from them, but Auburn could have done a lot better in that category and definitely help some of them. Devin says, give us some positive vibes, Kyle. Listen, I want to give you guys some positive vibes, but it's hard to make a turd look shiny. I think this was by far their worst performance of the season. And if you look at the other losses, Baylor was a very exceptionally good loss in terms of, well, I guess the way it ended, kind of, with not making free throws. That's frustrating, but they almost took down a Baylor team at a neutral site. The App State game is a lot of hyperboles around that, but that one's a little bit more understandable earlier in the season too. Alabama is an understandable one. Mississippi State, it's not like you lost to the worst team in the world, but you shouldn't be losing to Mississippi State the way that Auburn was playing. So just to be real, there's not a lot of positive to be taken about it. I'll try, though. I'll do my best. Can't promise things. Tom Stringfellow says not able to hit shots and not rebound leads to not winning. A little bit deeper than that, but yes, those things contribute to a poor performance overall. WT says Auburn needs to find a way to counteract that close defense that both UA and Mississippi State used on us. Could not get a cohesive offensive flow in either game. And that just comes from playing on the road too, right? Outside of just what the team is doing to counteract what's made you so successful. Auburn has had a lot of success, especially offensive, outside of these two games. And so teams are catching on to that. Teams are learning what they're doing, what they're not doing, and trying to take advantage of those things. But you're playing on the road in Coleman Coliseum, as ugly as it is. When they do show up for a game, it gets really loud in there and really intimidating. The Humphrey Coliseum is an intimidating environment too. So all that is part of this equation. It's not one specific thing for why Auburn had played so poorly in these two games, but it is still frustrating that at the end of this road stint this week, we're talking about 2 losses. If you remember, I talked about this at the end of last week after we came off the high of just a really great week, a really great stretch of Auburn basketball for 5 straight SEC wins in a row. Some of them on the road, a lot of them at home. But now we just went on the road and dropped 2 in a row. And I warned you all, and why I've been so scared to open up about how high I think this team could be and why I waited so long. Of course, maybe I jinxed us, is because I knew some of this was coming at some point. But you have to take some lumps on the road. And listen, if you're not watching the rest of college basketball, some of the perennial powers, some of the people that people expect to win, they are taking losses as well today. So put a little perspective around if you're freaking out about this team. Is it just me, or did a few people in the arena not want Cardwell to play today? I didn't see him as much today. But what do you mean by that? Give me a little bit more perspective on that. Blake says, Kyle, that tournament in March is on the road too. Got to find a way to win in different environments. It is on the road, but it's more of a neutral site. And as we know about Auburn fans, they do travel extremely well, especially if it's decent, traveling conditions. Now, if it's across the country, I think it's a little bit more challenging, but we've even seen Auburn fans travel really well for that. Imagine if we got a Birmingham bid again, that would be just nothing but Auburn people there. So yeah, there is something to that. I agree with you, Blake, that on the road, regardless, but neutral site games are a much different beast than home games, but also road games too. Deshaun says, man, we lose to Bama. It seems like we lose spirit, or is it just me, football or basketball? I don't think it's specifically an Alabama thing. You just came off an emotional roller coaster of a game where you really didn't play well for the majority of the game. Played well at some stints of it, but not all of it. And to come crashing down on the road, or another reality check, this wasn't the furthest thing that could have happened. John says, worst I've seen Auburn play in years. John, I'm gonna push back on you a little bit here. Well, it depends on what you mean by years. Now, if you mean 2 years, maybe so, but I'd submit to you that final tournament game with the Jabari Smith team, that was the worst. Literally was. That tournament game with Clemson, where we weren't in it from any point of the game. I want everybody to be careful here. Auburn fans, at least these days, don't tend, in my opinion, have a lot of, how do I put it? Have a lot of ability to cope properly with hard times, because we become, especially in basketball, because we become so used to being so successful. It's hard to go back to what you really knew. It's a 2-game losing streak, folks. Let's relax a little bit. They were all on the road. Now, if this was happening at home, we got problems. At home, this should not be happening. And the good thing is you're coming back home this week to correct all these things. Let's see here. We failed to block out on several occasions. Coaches need to focus on this, and I'm sure they do every single game, but it's definitely going to be a point of emphasis that this week, I'm sure. We need to work on following shots when we are not shooting well and boxing out. You mean just fundamentals? All of those things, right? All right, let's see here. A lot of you are kind of doing similar sentiments here, so I'm going to try to get some more fresh takes on these. Not to say that y'all are not worthy of sharing your opinions, but I don't want to keep rehashing the same things. Jacob says the Stripes seem to find a reason to call a foul on him. I don't know which one you're talking about. Oh, Cardwell. Almost like they wanted to highlight the Broom-Smith matchup. I think you're reaching there, Jacob. But hey, I'll let you think that. No offense. David says Bruce said it all season that we aren't as good as everybody thought we are, and he was right. And game plan was awful. We are 11 for 48 this week in threes. Good teams don't shoot that poorly. Still haven't won a single quad one game. This is not even a top 25 team. Well, David, you just need a hug, my friend. When I said earlier that if you're writing stuff like this, that you need to just take a chill, I hope you listen to that. I mean, this is no, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean to you, David. That's just so far off base. That's not even funny. The quad one win, I understand about metrics and stuff. Yes, that's a big deal. It is. But Auburn's going to make the tournament. Are they they're not even a top 25 team. That's just ridiculous. They are a top 25 team. They did not play like a top 10 team, and nor should they deserve to be in the top 10. In fact, I would say they need to be pushed back beyond. I'd be happy with them being just barely in the top 25, just kind of as a gut check, as a reality check for them. Simmer down now. Just simmer down now. It's not that bad. Let's see here. Andy says, man, this team looked gas. I can't seem to figure that out with 11 deep, but that effort just isn't what I've witnessed prior to these last two games. Andy, I'm going to use your comment to talk about something that I told myself I need to discuss on the stream, and it just now came back to me. So it's kind of related to what you're talking about here, but let me dive into it. So we've had a big conversation all season about, this person is doing really well right now. This person is not doing as well, and they're starting. So this person should start in their place. What I've submitted to you all season is that Auburn, when it's best, has this great platoon system where you literally sub 5 for 5. And when one comes in, yes, one group does something better than the other, but there's an uptick in a different area. And so it's almost like a team can't really adjust to that. I would say the second team is better defensively. The first team is better offensively. It's kind of like a right hook and then a left hook. Tonight, we had an issue, I guess it was an issue, a team issue where Denver Jones and Aiden Holloway weren't able to start tonight, and thus switched things up and forced groups to play together that weren't necessarily playing together. And what happened? No cohesion. Offense looked sluggish. We looked sluggish. We didn't look like we were in sync all that much. So to me, that kind of continues to reiterate that conversation that I've been trying to have with a lot of people about just because you think someone should start doesn't mean that's what's best for the team. And I think tonight showed that at some points tonight. I understand that team rules were broken and, there have to be consequences for it. And I'm glad that we followed through on that. But you can also see how that affects the team too. Here's the other side of the equation, because I don't want to get accused of, not seeing both sides of the discussion. There's also something to be said too, that if you lock into this, we're only successful if we play this group with that group. Well, that's going to set you up for failure, which tonight showed. Right. So you had to play with a different group a lot tonight, people that aren't used to playing together in this platoon system that we have. And a lot of weaknesses were showed. The connectivity wasn't there really well. What's going to happen if somebody gets hurt? What's going to happen if just somebody's having a really bad off night and they have to be sad? Team rules get broken again. So you've got to learn to work together no matter who's in. But you can see where Auburn's been really successful is when that platoon system is able to work how it normally has. That's just my opinion. You may not agree with it, but I think what we saw tonight kind of, shows that. Kevin says, I'm glad for the adversity. It can reveal the true character of the team. There is something to that. There is absolutely something to that. Sometimes you need to get knocked in the mouth to have a reality check. I don't really think this is a reality check for the team in the sense that they were big-headed, that they thought that they were, a top 10 team that deserved to always be there. But I think it also shows, hey, we still got a long way to go. Some of those minor issues that we ignored during some of the nice wins reared their ugly heads today and became a little bit of a frustration. So yes, character can be built in adversity. And aren't you glad we're facing a little adversity now and much later? Yeah, I think that kind of slipped by a lot of people, Chris, at the beginning of the game. And they announced it. Both Mississippi State and Auburn had lineup changes tonight. And I was like, well, okay, well, what everybody's been clamoring for. Chad Baker-Mazara getting swapped out for Chris Moore. No, 2 players out are being swapped out for Auburn. Aiden Holloway and Denver Jones. Violation of team rules. Don't know what those are. Don't have any insights on that. It could be something as simple as they weren't on time to something. And even if it's as simple as that, I'm glad Bruce and staff sticks to that. But yeah, it obviously affected the team. I think it affected Aiden and Denver too. I think it affected Aiden and him kind of wanting to get back out there, being a little bit too eager in some spots, even as big of the phenom as he is. Just not a great way to start off the game today. James says, cut the rotation down and find anyone willing to step up when needed. There's no go-to guy. I'm going to disagree with you there. There is a go-to guy, Janai Broome. And Janai has shown time and time again, even when he's not scoring well in the first half, that he can lock down in the second half. And he did it at times tonight, this afternoon, whenever you're watching this. And he is the guy, the lockdown guy. I would say that there are a couple others who have the capability. Jalen's shown that capability. It's there, and I don't think you need to cut the rotation down at all. If you're going to cut the rotation down, I unfortunately think you're going to have to probably loosen some time up for Lior Berman, which I know some of you out there are probably in favor of, but I think you would be remiss not seeing him out there on the court in some particular situations. Chris says, I agree with you on being consistent with enforcement of team rules. Guys got to make better decisions. And we don't know what those decisions were. It could have been grades. I don't know. Like, nobody knows outside of the team, probably, for sure. Everybody's got a source. My cousin knows the coach and, all that kind of stuff. But it is what it is. Can't really have things like that happen because it will affect the team at some point. All right, let's you guys can keep your comments and questions coming. Let's talk about it in a little bit more detail here. Your leading scorer tonight, Janai Broome, 14 points, 5 for 7 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3-point land, 3 for 3 from free throws, 7 rebounds for him, so a few shy of a double-double again for him in 34 minutes of play. That is your best stat line of the game and arguably your player of the game. If you all have a different player of the game, let me know, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in detail, but I'll run down the rest of the scoring tonight. 2 points for Katie Johnson, Jalen Williams with 10 points, so right behind Janai tonight. Trey Donaldson with 6, Aiden Holloway with 7. I didn't realize he had 7. Chad Baker-Mazara with 3, Denver Jones with 8, a nice one for 8. Let me talk about that in a second. Nice one for Denver, not 8. Chaney Johnson with 8. I want to give some kudos and props, some positive things out of this loss here. I've been asking for Denver to become more productive when he's out there statistically, and he's starting to do that. If I remember correctly, the last several games, he's getting higher up in his points that he's scoring. Not to say that if you're not out there scoring points in large quantities, you're not a productive member of this team, but I just feel like we could be getting more out of him, and he's starting to do that. Chaney Johnson as well. I think Chaney all around has really stepped up his game defensively, offensively, and I think it's starting to show that if these two can continue to grow into the roles that they have on this team alongside the guys that we know already their roles are established, that's going to be really deadly. I think it is. So I want to give props where props is due. I'll come back and look at some of y'all's comments here. Brian says we will be okay. Just growing pains for the point guard. We are better than most thought we would be. I got a great feeling that we will learn and grow. I love that, Brian. I think a lot of people with some interesting comments earlier who probably aren't watching anymore because just how things go. Need to hear that and take that to heart. This is not the end of the world, folks. Take a breather. It's okay. Let's see. It didn't affect either one. Broom can't be the guy if you can't get him the ball. There's no one outside. Also, Jalen Williams, good Lord, he's too soft. All right, James. James, you might be done for the night with those type of comments. There is no way on earth I'm going to let you get away with calling Jalen Williams soft in the way that he has played this season. That man has you might be able to have a case that he could have played more. I think the fun term these days is hard-nosed in following seasons, but the way this man has become more confident and assertive this season and has really become the player we always felt would be, that's just so far off base. I'm sorry. I'm going to pick on you a little bit now, too. This might be the stream where I just pick on folks for their ridiculous comments. Calling Jalen Williams soft is the most asinine comment I have heard probably on this stream. I'm sorry, James. Not trying to be mean, but that's just stupid. Woo! All right, mid-season grind. We will rebound from this, need to make some adjustments, and would like to see Trey Donaldson in at the end of the game. These are those times where you really think, what can we do differently? So maybe it is we start putting Trey Donaldson in some more situations to find, some better opportunities. If Aiden's not getting it done more consistently, you might see that. Are we at the point where we need to switch some people out? Probably not in terms of starting and stuff like that. I'd like to see what we do at home if we kind of go back to the way we were and still have some success. Everybody just take a breather and then see what happens when we go back on the road again. Got some other people checking in with us and hanging out with us. So appreciate you guys getting in here, even if you're a little bit late. Brian, oh, you're on. Did you change your handle again on YouTube? Interesting. Frustrating game, but growing pains are never fun. I agree. All right, so team stats. Let's look at some of those tonight. I know those are not fun. Field goal percentage. Honestly, I'm shocked it wasn't worse. 34% for Auburn, 44% for Mississippi State. The 3-point percentage. Auburn actually outshot Mississippi State by 1%, 25-24. I am shocked about that. Here are the big three stats that I always tell you to pay attention to. A lot of the time, they will tell the story of how the game went. Sometimes there will be a skew on one of those three that really just negates the others. And I think you're going to see that's the case tonight. Free throw percentage tonight for Auburn, 88%. Great job, Auburn. 14 of 16. Look at how awful Mississippi State was. 50% from the field. And they had more opportunities. That is awful. That's like the Auburn of 2-3 seasons ago. And you look at that and you say, there's such a disparity there. Why isn't Auburn able to make more of a difference? Well, we'll get there. Turnovers. Auburn wins again. 11 turnovers to 14. Some very inopportune turnovers in this game that I think make people forget that Auburn actually won in this category. And here we are, which got a little better over the last few minutes of the game. Total rebounds, 30 for Auburn, 45 for Mississippi State. That is your stat of the game, as somebody alluded to earlier. 30 to 45. That's it. If Auburn rebounds better, they get more opportunities themselves. They take opportunities away from Mississippi State. They win this game. They shot the ball from the free throw line well tonight, really well. They shot okay in some areas, good enough to be able to do more. But rebounding is really where it's at tonight. If you look at the rest of the stats here, well, we'll do those in a second. Let me see what else you guys are saying about that. But those are what I really focus on. All right, the static's back again. Lord, I cannot figure out for the life of me where the static is coming from. So we'll switch over to the other audio again. Sorry again, folks. Mic check. All right, we're good. I can see it's running now. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's like my microphone protesting, the production of this game. Devin says Bruce admitted they should have had Trey in at the end of the Bama game instead of Aiden. Then he did the exact same thing today. Puzzling. Well, it's two different opponents, two different games. Hindsight's always 2020. Just because that's what you should have done for one game doesn't mean that's what you should have done for this game. Chris asks, how do quad one wins work? Any potential for any of the previous wins becoming quad ones? No, it is all about when, unless somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I'm 100% on this. Quad one wins are only when you actually beat them or lose to them, whatever, that's what it's categorized as, what it is at that time. I could be wrong. They could adjust that as the season goes along, but I think they categorize that when the game actually happens. It seems like this quad one storyline is becoming a little bit hyper focused amongst Auburn fans, and I understand it. It's kind of becoming like rankings for Auburn fans. Like that was their big gripe. Why aren't we getting ranked? You see now why people were hesitant. Let's just focus on taking game by game and not so much focus on the quad ones and all that stuff right now. They'll come with time. Let's see here. Rebounding is effort. It was terrible today. I do agree with that. The effort I saw on free throw rebounding. Was it twice that, what's his name, Matthews came crashing through and just took, when they were shooting free throws, and took the ball away from us. I mean, rebounding is effort. It really is. It is effort and positioning. So about 50-50. If you position yourself well, you still won't get the rebound if you don't have great effort, or you have a lower chance. So a lot of things went wrong tonight. WT points out a lot of it. And then there's another storyline that's becoming more prevalent, the Trey versus Aiden discussion. We're blessed with two good point guards. Both do things very differently, but I'm very happy to have both of these guys. Especially, I am more comfortable having Trey come off the bench, because if you've played basketball, it seems oxymoronic. There's a certain honor with being trusted to come off the bench, meaning that you, especially if you're like the sixth man, you're the first one to come in. That means that you could be starting, but at the same token, we kind of need you to come in. So when things aren't going the way with the starting five, when you come in, there's not as much of a drop off. We're trusting you with that role. Mr. Gregorio, I see you hanging out with us. Thanks for being here. Let's see here. Rebounding was definitely the story tonight. A lot of people talking about that. Devin says, as I understand it, quad one could become a quad two if the team keeps losing. Not sure if it goes the other way. I would assume if it goes that way, it can go the other way. Kevin McHale had a Hall of Fame career coming off the bench for quite a while. And see, and this is what I'm trying to get here. And I know this isn't popular and probably loses me viewers and stuff, because I have the audacity to question the narratives. But whether it's about talking about rankings, in recruiting about stars, and then about quad this, quad that, and all that stuff, we get so focused on some of these things as opposed to just the minute, the finer things that we should be focusing on. And I'm not saying we can't ever talk about those things here, but it's as simple as this in basketball. They're really, well, I was going one way. I'm gonna hold that for now. Kevin McHale grew up where? I do not know where he grew up, but I bet you're going to tell us. Let's see here. James, I think I talked about you earlier, buddy. So, we took a question from you after the fact that you made that comment. So, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the rule here. When you act up and you call people, you talk about these players in such a way, you don't get your comments brought back up on the screen. So if that makes you upset, sorry, but that's the rule here. That's why we were fans, but your points are well taken. It's true, but just because you're fans doesn't mean that I say we, I'm not saying you, we are excused from being a little bit smarter at fans, if that makes sense. I always love situations like this because it really just brings all the emotions of everything up to the top and lets us kind of address some of these things sometimes. All right. We have talked about team stats. We have talked about individual stats. We have talked about the storylines. We have talked about the frustrating nature of this. 0-2. That one really hurts. So what else haven't we discussed in this game? 30 minutes. Usually that's kind of where we wrap up. But I can take some more commentary from you guys if you guys have some discussions that you'd like to flesh out some more. We can even look ahead a little bit here. But let me remind you what we got coming up next here at E2C Network live stream wise. Don't miss out tomorrow night, the Auburn Experience, where we will find a way to have some more fun even in these dark times, a 2-game losing streak. The Auburn Experience is our flagship show across everything that we do. The Auburn Experience, sports, culture, and family. Austin, myself, will be back in the saddle 9 Eastern time tomorrow night. Don't miss it. 9 Eastern time tomorrow night. Next Wednesday, we are back with Auburn Family Night, live call-in show. For those of you with lots of hot opinions too, this is a great opportunity to, call in and let's discuss these things and hash them out a little bit more. So please do that if you can. I always encourage that. If you got things that you disagree with me on, this is a great opportunity to kind of, you got me locked down. Let's go ahead and talk about those things. 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then right after that, they'll play Auburn and Vanderbilt, in which we'll have a post-game stream for that as well. Hopefully we are talking about a bounce-back game because I know we all need it at this point. James says there's at least 5 more losses coming. Just survive. Try to get top 4 in the SEC and draw a decent seed. Is there 5 more losses coming? Sure, there could be. So you would say a total of 7 SEC losses? Frankly, these days, that's not bad. The way it's become more and more competitive in the SEC. But I'm gonna say I would think 4 at most right now. I'll predict that at this moment. What else? David just got here. Rebounding. We have been lamenting about the rebounding. Yes, it was not good tonight. Not fun at all. So Vanderbilt coming up next. Obviously, we beat Vanderbilt on the road pretty decently. Stands to reason at home. That should carry over. This will be a good time to reset, to find our offensive cohesion. Hopefully, team issues that kept players out from starting the game will not be an issue going forward. Corrections have been made all around, and we're back in the jungle, and we're talking about good vibes again. I know the students will show up, but I hope the fans will show up at Vanderbilt as well to hang out and talk about this after the game too, because I know we'll all need a little bit of a palate cleanser after the game today. With that being said, folks, thank you guys so much for being here. Smash that like button on the way out. If you haven't, for those of you that didn't like some of my commentary, you don't have to. We always appreciate it if you can. And whether we agree, disagree, whether you are a sunshine pumper or a negative Nancy, we're all part of the Auburn family. And I appreciate you being here and hanging out with us and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, my friends, y'all have a good one. And War Eagle.